Hello, I'm Daniel, and welcome to the Emunah Project. We here at the Emunah Project are continuing our series of videos with respect to information, guidance, inspiration, and I mentioned in a previous video a connection and a comparison, rather, between Noah and Abraham, the patriarch Abraham. These are both people who knew God. They are both people who were tzaddikim. They were righteous people. Noah was righteous in his generation. Abraham was righteous in his generation, and they both lived in eras of immorality and idolatry, and they were both in very perilous times spiritually. And so it's interesting how the Torah views them, how the Torah describes them. Noah is described as someone who walked with God. Walked with God. Abraham is viewed as, Abraham walked before me. God saying, Abraham walks before me. And it's the interesting comparison that's been made by our sages over time. Noah, while being a righteous person, needed God with him. He needed the security and the safety of God being with him to hold his hand, whereas Abraham, who was stronger spiritually and a little more mature spiritually, was able to walk ahead. Think of the comparison like a parent walking a child, holding the hands or something. A young toddler who can walk, but they need to have the parent close by. They need that safety, the security. They need the confidence that comes from being next to the parent. A little older toddler not only can walk on his own, but he tends to go a little forward. He tends to stray a little forward. He's independent. He can go further on his own. And an interesting comparison is made spiritually from this sort of thing. I'm referring specifically to a comparison made by Rav Ze'ev Weinberger. Makes a very interesting comparison between Noah and his fromkeit, his religious observance, and the kind of Orthodox Jew who lives in an Orthodox community, and he says, he can't imagine living outside an Orthodox community. It has the conveniences, it has synagogues, and it has kosher food, it has communities, it has mikvahs and everything. And someone who lives a little more remote from an Orthodox community, and also it has an Orthodox community, a large Orthodox community usually. And he says, and he's not criticizing people who live in Orthodox communities, and he's not saying that everyone should just get up and move to smaller towns with fewer amenities. What I think Rav Weinberger is pointing out is that there is a kind of person who says, I cannot survive. I can't possibly survive unless there's a synagogue, and unless there is a mikveh and a kosher restaurant and kosher and Jewish schools for the kids. He can't possibly survive without that. This is the kind of person that I'm presuming Rav Weinberger is saying. That kind of person, like Noah, while a perfectly decent person, a perfectly good tzaddik, he needs that to bolster him up. And thank goodness for the frum people among us who will venture out into smaller communities and start smaller communities. I know this may be hard to believe, but once upon a time, a long time ago, there were no Jews in Monsey, New York. True story. So what happened? They built a yeshiva. People started moving out there. Supply follows demand. People didn't start making synagogues and kosher meat markets saying, "Oh, I hope Jews move out here." No, Jews moved out, and schools popped up. Why? Because there was a bunch of kids who needed schools. There was a synagogue, or more usually in a smaller community, they don't start off building a synagogue. I don't know about you guys, but on Friday nights, when I'm in Toronto for Shabbos, I don't daven at a synagogue. I daven at someone's house. We have a rabbi there who is having mobility issues. He's in a wheelchair. He can't get to a synagogue on Shabbos. So we bring the minyan to him. We bring the congregation to him. And on Friday nights, we're in his living room, basically, davening. That's how it starts. There is a mentality with some people in large frum communities that anything outside the community supports no life. And they figured, how can you possibly live, without this, without that, without that? You know what? You live. You make do. There's a school. Okay, you may have to, put the kids on a bus and maybe like a half hour away. You may have to do this. You may have to do that. But thank goodness for those who do venture outside the mainstream. They inject life into the rest of the area. Communities will grow, and Jews will spread, and Yiddishkeit and Judaism will spread. And we are a light unto the nations. We show people how good, decent, moral, ethical communities live. We lead by example. And if we can makarev people, if we can maybe, if someone wants to become observant, if a Jewish person in a community who's like never really had a Passover Seder or a Hanukkah party or a Purim party, and they'll have it. This is why the shluchim, the emissaries for Chabad, do such valuable work, because they go into communities and they support them. So do not fear, going outside the border. It can be rewarding. We're going to be doing more videos along these lines. Please come back. Please watch. Please learn. I hope you're enjoying them. And until next time, on behalf of the Emunah Project, I'm Daniel, and thank you too much.